Keanu Reeves walked into the most exclusive yacht club in the world, dressed in a t-shirt and worn-out jeans. The elite scoffed, whispering that he didn't belong. But by the end of the night, he made a move so shocking that it left the entire room in stunned silence. What happened next left them speechless. Before we dive into this heartwarming story, subscribe for more inspiring tales that remind us kindness still exists in the world, and let us know where you're watching from down in the comments. Keanu Reeves walked along the pristine marina, his eyes scanning the endless rows of luxury yachts bobbing gently in the water. The evening sun cast golden hues over the harbor, illuminating the extravagant vessels, each more opulent than the last. This was no ordinary yacht club. This was one of the most exclusive in the world, a private sanctuary for billionaires, royalty, and those who defined wealth not just by their bank accounts, but by the sheer scale of their indulgences. Dressed in his usual understated style, a black cotton t-shirt, well-worn jeans, and scuffed boots, Keanu looked out of place among the tailored suits, silk dresses, and expensive watches that gleamed in the sunlight. As he stepped onto the polished wooden deck of the clubhouse, conversations briefly paused. A few members exchanged glances, whispering behind crystal champagne flutes. "Who let him in?" one man muttered, adjusting the cufflinks on his designer blazer. Keanu, unbothered by the stares, walked with his usual calm demeanor, his hands tucked casually in his pockets. He wasn't here for attention. He wasn't here for status. He was here because of something much deeper. The clubhouse itself was a masterpiece of excess. Glass chandeliers sparkled above imported Italian marble floors, and the scent of aged whiskey and fine cigars lingered in the air. Seated at one of the grand oak tables was Vincent Carmichael, a real estate tycoon whose family had been members of this club for generations. With slicked-back silver hair and a watch worth more than most homes, Vincent prided himself on knowing everyone worth knowing. And he was certain that this man, whoever he was, did not belong here. Keanu approached the grand balcony overlooking the marina, where a small group was discussing the latest superyacht designs. As he admired the craftsmanship of a particular vessel, he heard a scoff behind him. "Admiring the view, are we?" Vincent's voice was smooth but laced with condescension. "I must say, you don't quite look like the type to own a yacht. These things cost more than most people make in a lifetime." Keanu turned slightly, his expression neutral. "Beautiful craftsmanship," he said simply. "The attention to detail is remarkable." Vincent chuckled, sipping his scotch. "Indeed, but these aren't just boats, my friend. They are statements. Symbols of power, legacy, and of course, wealth." He glanced at Keanu's attire, his lips curling into a smirk. "Which brings me to my question. Who invited you?" Keanu met his gaze with quiet amusement. "I was curious about the place," he replied. "I thought I'd take a look." "Take a look?" Vincent let out a short laugh. "This isn't some tourist attraction. Membership here isn't just about money, it's about status. And, if you'll forgive my bluntness, you don't exactly scream status." Few others chuckled, emboldened by Vincent's dismissive tone. Among them was Jonathan Sinclair, an oil magnate who had never set foot on a yacht without at least 3 assistants catering to his every whim. He leaned forward, intrigued by the exchange. "And what do you do exactly?" Jonathan asked, swirling his wine glass. "Are you in the business? Real estate? Finance?" Keanu hesitated for a moment, then smiled slightly. "I tell stories," he said. Vincent raised an eyebrow. "A writer, then? How quaint." Keanu gave a small nod, not bothering to correct him. Jonathan leaned back, unimpressed. "Well, I hope you enjoy your time here, storyteller, though I doubt you'll be staying long. This club has a way of sorting out who belongs and who doesn't." Keanu said nothing, his gaze drifting back to the marina. Among the mega yachts worth hundreds of millions, one particular vessel caught his eye. It wasn't the biggest, nor the most extravagant, but there was something about it, a sense of history, character. He turned back to Vincent. "Tell me about that one," he said, nodding toward the yacht. Vincent followed his gaze, then scoffed. "Ah, the Elysian. A relic, really. Built decades ago, but still somehow worth a fortune. She was owned by a shipping tycoon until, of course, he passed away. Now the family is selling it off. Magnificent vessel, but hardly what you'd call modern luxury." Keanu's lips pressed into a thoughtful line. "And what's it worth?" Jonathan smirked, enough to make your head spin. Before anyone could respond, the deep chime of a bell rang through the air, a signal that the evening yacht showcase was about to begin. Every member turned toward the grand staircase, where a distinguished-looking auctioneer took his place. "Ladies and gentlemen," the man announced, "tonight we have something truly special. The Elysian, a yacht that has graced the seas with timeless elegance, is officially up for private bid. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Vincent clapped Jonathan on the back, grinning. "Now this is where things get interesting. Let's see which of us takes her home." Keanu remained quiet, observing as the elite of the elite prepared to flex their wealth in yet another battle of status. But what happened next would leave everyone in the room questioning everything they thought they knew about power, class, and the true meaning of wealth. The crowd murmured with excitement as the auctioneer stepped forward, adjusting his cufflinks before speaking. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Elysian is a vessel of unparalleled craftsmanship, history, and prestige. We will begin the bidding at $25 million. A sleekly dressed woman near the front raised her paddle immediately. $26 million, she announced, her voice dripping with nonchalance. Vincent smirked and raised his hand. $30 million. Jonathan let out a quiet chuckle and adjusted his watch. $40 million. Keanu remained still, his gaze unwavering as the numbers climbed higher. The auctioneer nodded approvingly. "We have $40 million from Mr. Sinclair. Do I hear 42? Another hand shot up from the back. $42 million. Vincent glanced at Jonathan with an amused expression. "Care to go higher?" Jonathan didn't hesitate. $50 million. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and all eyes turned toward Vincent. The stakes had escalated quickly. Vincent leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers against the polished armrest. He waited just long enough to build suspense before giving a confident nod. $55 million. The auctioneer's voice rang through the yacht club. $55 million from Mr. Carmichael. Do I hear 60? Jonathan hesitated for a moment, then exhaled through his nose. $60 million. The room tensed as the two tycoons locked eyes, their silent battle of pride playing out in real time. Then, from the edge of the room, a calm voice broke through the tension. $100 million. Silence. Every head in the room turned toward the speaker. Keanu Reeves. A stunned hush fell over the crowd. For the first time that evening, Vincent and Jonathan had nothing to say. The auctioneer adjusted his glasses, momentarily caught off guard. $100 million from the gentleman in the black t-shirt. A nervous chuckle rippled through the room. A few of the elite exchanged uncertain glances, unsure if they had just witnessed a joke or a serious bid. Vincent recovered first. He let out an amused scoff, shaking his head. "Very funny. But let's be realistic here. Some of us are playing at a level that—" "I accept the bid," the auctioneer interrupted, clearing his throat. $100 million going once. Jonathan leaned forward, narrowing his eyes at Keanu. "Who are you?" Keanu simply smiled. "Going twice?" Vincent's confidence wavered. He had spent the last hour belittling this man, assuming he was nothing more than an out-of-place wanderer. But now, standing there with the weight of $100 million behind his words, Keanu had flipped the entire dynamic on its head. "Sold." The auctioneer's voice echoed through the hall. "To Mr." He hesitated, as if suddenly realizing he hadn't caught a last name. "Reeves," a voice whispered. A ripple of recognition spread through the room. Someone gasped audibly. Others exchanged wide-eyed stares, the name sinking in. Vincent's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "Wait," Jonathan muttered. "You're Keanu Reeves?" The energy in the room shifted in an instant. Gone was the quiet ridicule, the dismissive glances, the veiled insults. In their place was a stunned, almost reverent silence. Keanu gave a small nod. Vincent, still reeling, forced a chuckle. I didn't realize." "Would it have made a difference?" Keanu asked simply. The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Vincent's throat bobbed as he swallowed. I suppose." Keanu's expression was calm, almost kind. "I walked in here the same person I am now. The only thing that changed is how you see me." No one dared to speak. Jonathan, still gripping his wine glass, muttered under his breath. $100 million, just like that? Keanu glanced at the auctioneer. How soon can I finalize the paperwork? The auctioneer, still visibly stunned, quickly straightened his tie. Mr. Reeves, I believe we can arrange the details within the hour. Keanu nodded. Good, because I'm not keeping the Elysian. The room stiffened again. Vincent blinked. Excuse me? Keanu glanced toward the balcony, where the setting sun painted the marina in brilliant shades of gold and amber. He took a deep breath before speaking. I'm donating it. Murmurs swept through the crowd. Jonathan leaned forward. Donating $100 million yacht? Keanu shrugged. There's an organization that refurbishes luxury vessels and repurposes them for humanitarian missions, medical aid, disaster relief, search and rescue. This yacht has history. Now, it'll have a future. The weight of his words sank in. The same men who had spent the evening flaunting their wealth were now watching, speechless, as a man they had dismissed so easily gave away a fortune without a second thought. For the first time in his life, Vincent Carmichael had nothing clever to say. Why, he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Keanu's answer was simple. Because some things are worth more than money. Silence. And then, a slow, hesitant clap. Someone in the back. Then another, and another, until the entire room was applauding, not for the money, not for the yacht, but for the lesson they had all just witnessed. Vincent lowered his gaze, his expensive watch suddenly feeling heavier on his wrist. Keanu turned toward the auctioneer. Let's get started on the paperwork. And with that, he walked past the silent crowd, leaving behind a room full of people who would never look at wealth the same way again. But the night wasn't over just yet, because what happened next would change Vincent Carmichael in a way he never expected. The murmurs in the room hadn't faded by the time Keanu Reeves exited onto the open-air deck, the warm night breeze carrying the scent of salt and teakwood. Inside, the wealthiest men and women in the world stood in stunned silence, grappling with what they had just witnessed. A man they had ridiculed, dismissed, and judged as unworthy had just outbid them all, and then, without hesitation, given it all away. Vincent Carmichael remained in his seat, fingers drumming against the armrest of his expensive leather chair. His mind replayed the moment over and over again. The confidence in Keanu's voice. The ease with which he had let go of something they all fought so desperately to possess. Jonathan finally exhaled. $100 million, and he just gave it away. A woman nearby, still clutching her champagne flute, whispered, Do you know what that yacht could have meant to someone like him? Vincent's jaw tightened. Someone like him. That was exactly the problem. He had spent the entire evening defining Keanu by his clothes, his lack of obvious wealth, his apparent insignificance. But in the end, Keanu had something that all of them, despite their fortunes, seemed to lack. True freedom. Vincent suddenly stood, pushing his chair back. Without another word, he followed Keanu onto the deck. Keanu was standing near the railing, gazing at the marina, his expression calm as ever. The distant hum of the waves filled the silence between them. For the first time in years, Vincent felt small. He cleared his throat. Mr. Reeves. Keanu turned slightly, offering a small smile. You can just call me Keanu. Vincent hesitated, struggling to find words. I wanted to say, I misjudged you. He let out a quiet chuckle, shaking his head. Severely. Keanu didn't respond right away. He just studied Vincent for a moment, as if deciding how much grace to offer him. Finally, he said, I don't take it personally. Vincent sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. You should. I was awful to you. Dismissive. Arrogant. He exhaled sharply. And the worst part? I didn't even realize it until you proved me wrong. Keanu turned to fully face him now. Would it have changed anything if you had known who I was from the beginning? Vincent swallowed hard. He knew the answer. It was the part that stung the most. Yes, he admitted. And that's the problem. Keanu nodded, as if acknowledging the weight of Vincent's honesty. For the first time in his life, Vincent Carmichael, man of obscene wealth, power, and prestige, was standing in front of someone who had everything without needing to prove anything. He looked out at the marina, his voice quieter now. You said something earlier, that some things are worth more than money. He glanced back at Keanu. I think I finally get what you meant. Keanu's gaze softened. It's never too late to see things differently. Vincent hesitated before speaking again. His voice was uncharacteristically uncertain. That organization you mentioned, the one that repurposes yachts for humanitarian efforts. He took a slow breath. Do you think they'd be interested in another donation? Keanu raised an eyebrow. Vincent gave a small, self-deprecating chuckle. I have a few yachts I don't really need. Keanu studied him for a moment before extending a hand. I think they'd be very interested. Vincent took it. And in that handshake, something shifted, not just for Vincent Carmichael, but for the world he had built around himself. They stood in silence for a while, watching the golden reflection of the city lights dance on the waves. Behind them, the rest of the club remained in quiet awe, still grappling with what they had witnessed. Some, like Jonathan Sinclair, would never change. But others, those who had truly heard what Keanu had said, would walk away from this night a little different, a little better. As Keanu made his way toward the exit, Vincent called out one last time, "Keanu." He turned. "Thank you." Vincent hesitated, then added, "Not for being Keanu Reeves, but for being exactly who you are." Keanu smiled, gave a small nod, and disappeared into the night, leaving behind not just an empty space in the room, but an idea, a lesson. That true wealth isn't about what you own. It's about what you're willing to give away. And that night, in the most exclusive yacht club in the world, the richest men in the room had learned that lesson from the man they had all underestimated. A man who, despite owning nothing in that moment, had walked away the wealthiest of them all. If you enjoyed this story about the power of humility and the true meaning of wealth, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We have many more inspiring stories that will challenge the way you see the world. Let us know in the comments, what did this story mean to you? And we'll see you in our next special video.